3 hikers set out on ordinary trips into the wilderness, but none of them ever returned. No cries for help, no footprints, no clues left behind. Just silence. How can someone walk into nature and simply vanish, as if the earth itself swallowed them whole? He was the kind of person who loved the mountains like some people love music. His name was Alex. He wasn't reckless or careless, he was the opposite. He knew the trails, he checked the weather, he packed extra water and a first aid kit. Friends called him steady. Family trusted him. He left that morning with a simple plan, a day hike on a familiar ridge back before sunset. Everything began ordinary. Alex texted a friend at dawn, saying the views would be worth it. He waved at the trailhead and started up the path, smiling like someone who'd done this 100 times. Hikers passed him on the way and later remembered him laughing about a silly bird or pointing out a wildflower. Nobody noticed anything odd. Nobody imagined this would be the last time anyone would see him. By mid-afternoon, things start to feel strange. Alex's friend stopped hearing back. A check-in text went unanswered. When his car was still in the parking lot as night fell, worry turned sharp. Search parties formed before midnight. People who knew the land walked the ridges and valleys they thought he might have used. Dogs traced scents. Flashlights swept the trees. Helicopters scanned the line of the ridge. But the first big shock came quickly. His backpack was found alone, placed on a flat rock at a small junction, water bottle still half full, map folded neatly, a perfectly intact boot resting beside it. No sign of a struggle, no blood, no torn clothing, no broken branches that might tell a story. That should have been a clue. Instead, it deepened the mystery. Why leave a backpack behind in a place where every backpack matters? Why leave it so deliberately, as if someone set it down and walked away? Search teams widened their circle. They checked cameras where they could. One trail cam showed Alex passing by at 2:14 p.m., walking with a steady pace. 10 minutes later, the same camera recorded nothing, not even a blur or a shadow. A gap. The frame after that showed empty trail, untouched. It was as if time had hiccuped and taken him with it. Investigators tried to make sense of small details. His phone went dead and never pinged again. His last known location was a narrow path that would have been hard to leave without being seen. Hikers who had been ahead of him swore they'd seen him turn toward a clearing. Others said they heard a faint shout far below the ridge, but when teams climbed down, there was only silence and more trees. For the family, each hour felt endless. They replayed the last messages, the last photos, trying to find a hint they'd missed. Volunteers walked with headlamps until dawn, combing every bush and boulder. The stuff people leave behind in the wilderness often tells a story. A snapped walking pole, a shoe, a scarf snagged on a branch. But here, the trail gave nothing that fit together. Things were in the wrong places, or not there at all. Months passed and official searches slowed, but rumors did not. Some said he'd staged his own disappearance. Others whispered about a hidden cave or a wrong turn into a sinkhole. A few believed in something stranger, a place in the forest that didn't follow the rules. None of those ideas held up to close look. No evidence supported them. The only concrete thing left was the image of that empty trail camera frame, like a punch hole through time. If the first case seemed impossible, the second feels even stranger. This one is about Emily, a young woman who went hiking to clear her head after a stressful week. She wasn't an expert, but she wasn't careless either. She chose a trail that locals described as easy, a path often taken by families, joggers, and weekend walkers. She told her roommate she'd be back by dinner, but dinner came and went. Emily never returned. When her friends reported her missing, searchers expected a quick resolution. After all, this was a busy trail, not some remote mountain pass. People walked it every day. But what they found instead was chilling. Emily's jacket laid neatly across a low branch, as though someone had hung it there intentionally. A few yards further down, her water bottle, upright, half full, placed on the ground. And beyond that, nothing. No phone, no footprints, no trail leading away. Just the unsettling feeling that someone had carefully left these things behind to confuse whoever came looking. Witnesses recalled seeing her earlier that day. A jogger swore they passed her heading uphill, smiling, headphones in. A couple believed they saw her sitting on a rock near the stream, writing in a small notebook. But when investigators followed up, the notebook never surfaced. If she had one, it vanished along with her. The search spread wide. Dozens of volunteers combed through the woods. Helicopters hovered overhead, scanning every patch of ground. Dogs sniffed for her scent, but lost it abruptly at the same spot where her belongings had been found. It was as if the trail itself simply ended. Days turned into weeks, and still nothing new appeared. Rumors began to swirl. Some said she'd met someone in the forest, a stranger, maybe even someone she trusted, who convinced her to follow them. Others whispered about something more sinister, about predators hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone alone. And then there were theories that tipped into the bizarre, talk of portals, of places in the woods where people step in but never come out. What makes Emily's case so terrifying isn't just the absence of answers, it's the sense of precision. Her belongings weren't scattered the way you'd expect in a struggle or an accident. They were arranged almost too carefully, as if someone wanted to leave behind just enough to raise questions, but never enough to give closure. Even now, years later, hikers pass that same trail and talk about her. Some claim they feel watched there. Others say the forest feels heavier, quieter, like it remembers what happened. And with no evidence, no body, and no trace of where she went, Emily's disappearance sits alongside Alex's, as another reminder that even the safest places can hold the darkest secrets. The last case is often described as the most disturbing of all because of how many contradictions surround it. His name was Daniel. Unlike Alex and Emily, he wasn't just an occasional hiker. He was a seasoned outdoorsman, the kind of person others relied on when they went into the wilderness. He knew survival skills, could read the weather, and had years of experience. If anyone should have been safe in the wild, it was him. And yet, he vanished in a way that made no sense at all. Daniel set out on a multi-day trek through a national park. Before leaving, he left behind a detailed itinerary for his family. Which trail he'd take, where he'd camp, and when he'd return. He even logged his route with the ranger station, something most hikers never bother to do. His gear was checked, his supplies were plenty, and nothing seemed out of order. Everything about the trip should have been routine. For the first day or so, everything was routine. He was spotted by other hikers passing a lake and stopping to chat briefly with a group heading the opposite direction. He seemed upbeat, confident, and completely fine. Things got stranger when they found his boots neatly placed outside the tent flap, as if he'd taken them off before lying down to rest. His journal was open, with the last entry reading, "The woods are quiet tonight." Too quiet after that, nothing. No more words, no sign of struggle, no trail leading away from the campsite. His tracks simply ended a few steps from the tent, like he'd walked into thin air. Weeks of searching revealed nothing more. No body, no gear, no clothing scattered in the wilderness. It was as if Daniel had been erased. And the most unsettling part? Experienced rangers admitted they'd never seen anything like it. Usually, Even when someone is lost, the forest leaves a trace: broken branches, scraps of fabric, disturbed soil. But here, there was nothing. Over the years, Daniel's case has fueled endless speculation. Some believe he stumbled into something he shouldn't have, maybe an old mine shaft or a hidden cave that swallowed him whole. Others think his experience worked against him. Maybe he discovered something deep in the wilderness that others never would, and it cost him his life. And of course, there are the theories that reach beyond reason. Talk of disappearances linked across different parks, of patterns too strange to be coincidence. What makes Daniel's story the most chilling isn't just his disappearance, but the contradiction it leaves behind. If the wilderness can take even the most prepared, experienced hiker, then maybe it's not about skill at all. Maybe it's about something far darker, something that doesn't care who you are, how ready you might be, or how well you know the land. Daniel's empty tent still haunts the memory of those who searched for him, a scene frozen in time, a reminder that sometimes the wilderness doesn't just hide people, it keeps them. When 3 hikers vanish under such different but equally baffling circumstances, people can't help but search for answers. And over time, countless theories have formed, some grounded in logic, others drifting into the realm of the unimaginable. The most common explanation is the simplest: accidents. Nature, after all, can be unpredictable. A slip on wet rocks, a hidden drop, or a sudden change in weather could be enough to take a life. Perhaps Alex, Emily, and Daniel all fell victim to the wilderness in ways searchers simply missed. But that theory runs into a wall. If it was just an accident, where are the bodies? Where is the evidence? How can so many exhaustive searches with dogs, helicopters, and trained rescuers come up completely empty? Then there's the theory of foul play. Some believe these hikers crossed paths with the wrong person at the wrong time. A stranger on the trail, or maybe even someone they knew, could have lured them away, leaving behind carefully placed belongings to throw off the search. This theory feels possible, especially with Emily's neatly arranged jacket and water bottle, or Daniel's campsite frozen in time. But if it was a crime, it would have to be almost impossibly perfect, carried out with no witnesses, no evidence, and no mistakes. Others point toward something more secretive. There are whispers of government experiments, restricted areas hidden in plain sight, and disappearances that seem to cluster near certain regions, as though someone, or something, is making sure these cases never get solved. Could hikers stumble into places they were never meant to see? And then, of course, come the paranormal explanations: portals in the wilderness, thin spots between worlds, forces that defy reason. It sounds impossible, until you remember how these disappearances make no sense at all. People were there, and then they weren't. Sometimes the simplest explanation feels less believable than the strangest one. What all these theories show is that humans need answers. We can't accept that someone could walk into the wilderness and vanish, leaving nothing behind but silence. But in these cases, every theory has cracks. Every explanation falls short. And that's why these stories continue to grip us, because they remind us that maybe, just maybe, there are still things in this world that logic alone can't explain. When we hear stories like these, it's easy to think they only happen in movies or ghost tales told around a campfire. But the truth is, Alex, Emily, and Daniel were real people. They had families waiting for them, plans for the future, and every reason to come back home. And yet, the wilderness swallowed them without leaving a trace. No matter how many searches were done, no matter how many theories were formed, the answers never came. These stories remind us that the world is still filled with mysteries we can't neatly explain. The wilderness may look beautiful and calm from the outside, but it also holds secrets, some of which remain untouched, unknown, and perhaps unknowable. Maybe that's why disappearances like these stay with us, because they tap into our deepest fear. The fear of vanishing without a reason, without a goodbye, without anyone ever knowing what truly happened. What do you think happened to these hikers? Were their fates sealed by nature, by human hands, or by something far stranger than we can imagine? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your theories. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.